Sometimes you think you have someone figured out, and then they go and surprise you in the worst possible way. I'm Kenzie, I'm 29, and if you think this story is going to be me crying about how unfair life is, you're wrong. I'm just telling you what happened because people need to understand how some men really operate when their egos get bruised. So there I was, living in Craig's downtown condo. Yeah, his place, but whatever. I basically ran it anyway. 3 years together, and the man still didn't understand how to treat a woman properly. I mean, I loved him, but love doesn't pay for nice dinners or make you look good in front of your coworkers, right? Craig worked in some analytical job, risk assessment, or something equally mind-numbing. The guy could spend hours staring at spreadsheets and probability calculations like they were fascinating novels. Meanwhile, I'd just landed this incredible position at a major insurance company, finally making real money and working with actual professionals. That's when I met Wayne, my new boss, and the first man in years who actually appreciated my intelligence. Wayne was everything Craig wasn't: successful, confident, established. He had this corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows and drove a BMW that probably cost more than Craig made in 6 months. Unlike Craig, who barely noticed when I got my hair done or bought a new outfit, Wayne always complimented my presentations, my ideas, even my style. "Kenzie, that color looks incredible on you," he'd say, or, "Your analysis on the Peterson account was brilliant." When's the last time Craig called me brilliant? Never. The work husband thing started as a joke between Wayne and me. He'd bring me coffee in the mornings. Not just any coffee, but this expensive stuff from the cafe downstairs. We'd have these long conversations about strategy and marketing, finishing each other's thoughts. It felt so natural, so effortless. Craig would come home and drone on about his day while scrolling through his phone, but Wayne actually listened to me, valued my opinions. My work husband is spoiling me again. I'd tell Blair over drinks, showing her the expensive lunch Wayne had ordered for our team meeting. She'd laugh and say I was lucky to have such a generous boss. And I was lucky. Finally, someone who recognized my worth. Look, I know what you're thinking, but it wasn't like that. Wayne was married, had kids, the whole suburban package. We were just colleagues who clicked professionally. If Craig had bothered to step up his game even a little, if he'd shown half the appreciation Wayne did, none of this would have happened. The night everything changed started like any other. Craig had picked this mediocre restaurant, probably looked up affordable date night on Google, and I was already annoyed. I'm making good money now. We could afford better places, but Craig was still stuck in his penny-pinching mindset. Then Wayne texted me about approving my budget for the spring campaign, and I couldn't help but smile. Here was a man who trusted me with real responsibility, real money. "Good news?" Craig asked, barely looking up from his sad little chicken dish. "Amazing news," I said, not bothering to hide my excitement. Wayne approved my entire budget proposal, plus he bought lunch for the whole team again today. That's like the 3rd time this week. I was practically glowing, thinking about how Wayne had specifically complimented my presentation in front of everyone. That's when it hit me. The perfect way to make Craig understand what he was lacking. I put my phone down and gave him this look, you know? The kind that says, "Pay attention because I'm about to teach you something." "My work husband is buying me lunch every day," I said with a little laugh. "You need to step up." It was supposed to be playful, motivational even, like, here's what a real man does for a woman he values. But Craig just stared at me with this weird expression. "You're right," he said in this flat voice. "That's very generous of him. I should thank him." Something about his tone made me pause, but then I figured he was finally getting it, finally understanding that relationships require effort, that women need to feel appreciated. The rest of dinner was quiet, which was fine by me. I had Wayne's texts to keep me entertained anyway. Craig seemed lost in thought, probably planning some grand gesture to make up for months of taking me for granted. About time. I should have known something was wrong when Craig was being so different the next few days. Not different like usual Craig, but this weird, calm version of himself. He'd make coffee in the morning, kiss me goodbye, ask about my day when he got home. It felt almost performative, like he was checking boxes, but I was too busy with work to really analyze it. Wayne and I were deep into planning the spring campaign, staying late, grabbing dinner to discuss strategy. It felt so professional, so adult. Nothing like Craig's idea of romance, which usually involved Netflix and takeout. Between us, those late nights with Wayne were the highlight of my week. Finally, someone who could match my energy, who understood the demands of a real career. We'd order sushi to the office, spread campaign materials across the conference table, brainstorming until midnight. Wayne would roll up his sleeves, loosen his tie, and suddenly the stuffiness of corporate life felt exciting, dynamic. "You have such a sharp mind, Kenzie," he'd say, leaning back in his chair. "I wish more people on my team had your instincts." Meanwhile, Craig would be home watching some documentary about financial markets or reading articles about risk management. When I'd get home around 11, he'd barely look up from his laptop. "Long day?" he'd ask. "Productive day," I'd correct him. Wayne and I are really onto something with this campaign. Then Friday happened. I was in the middle of reviewing campaign materials when my phone started buzzing. Missed call from an unknown number, then another. Then the text started flooding in. "Call me right now." "What did you do?" "Craig, I am not kidding. What did you do?" My hands were actually shaking as I tried to call him back, but it went straight to voicemail. Then Aurora from HR called my extension. "Kenzie, I need you to come to conference room B immediately." My stomach dropped. Aurora's voice was all business, no warmth. When I walked into that conference room and saw Wayne sitting there with two people I didn't recognize, plus Aurora with a stack of papers, I knew something was very wrong. "Kenzie, please sit down," Aurora said. "We've received some concerning correspondence that we need to discuss." That's when she pulled out the card. A simple, professional thank you card with Craig's neat handwriting. I could see my name mentioned. Something about lunch. Something about appreciation. My vision started tunneling. "This was sent to Wayne's office yesterday," Aurora continued, "along with a $50 Starbucks gift card. We need to understand the nature of your relationship with your supervisor." The meeting was a nightmare. They had policies, documentation, witness statements about Wayne and me having lunch together, staying late, the coffee runs. Everything that felt natural and professional suddenly looked suspicious under their corporate microscope. Wayne barely looked at me, just kept saying it was all innocent, all above board. But I could see the panic in his eyes. His whole career, his reputation, his marriage, all of it was suddenly on the line because of one stupid thank you card. They suspended me pending investigation. Suspended. Me. Like I was some kind of criminal instead of their star employee. I drove home in a rage, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. How dare Craig do this to me? How dare he sabotage my career because of his own insecurities? I'd been nothing but supportive of his boring job, his boring friends, his boring life, and this is how he repaid me. When I got to the condo, Craig was there waiting, calm as could be, like he hadn't just nuked my entire professional life. "What did you do?" I screamed the second I saw him. He had the audacity to act confused, like he didn't know exactly what he'd done. "I did what I said I'd do," he said in this infuriating, reasonable voice. "I thanked him for taking care of you." "You don't send evidence," I shrieked. "You don't write things down. He's my manager, it's against policy." That's when I saw it in his eyes. He knew. He knew exactly what he was doing. This wasn't some clueless boyfriend gesture. This was calculated, deliberate sabotage. "Is there something going on, Kenzie?" he asked, and I felt the trap closing around me. Because what could I say? That Wayne and I had a connection? That he appreciated me in ways Craig never could? That for the first time in years I felt valued and seen? All of that was true, but saying it out loud would make me sound like I was having an affair or something, which I wasn't. It was just friendship, just professional mentorship. But try explaining that to HR. "You idiot," I screamed, my composure finally cracking. "You don't do that. You don't send evidence. You don't write it down. He's my manager. It's against policy. They think there's something going on between us." Craig just looked at me with this cold stare I'd never seen before. "Is there, Kenzie?" I froze. He finally understood. This wasn't a blunder, it was a mirror. "What are you talking about? Is there something going on? Because you've been networking with him for months. You've been letting him buy you things. You've been flaunting your work husband in my face and then mocking me for not measuring up. You seem pretty proud of it. I just agreed with you. I sent a polite, professional thank you note, boyfriend to manager, thanking him for his generosity. What's the problem? Unless, of course, that generosity is something you both should have been hiding. The way he said it, so calm and logical, made me want to scream. He was twisting everything, making it sound dirty when it was just professional respect. You did this on purpose, I sputtered. You're trying to ruin my career. No, Kenzie, you did this. You and Wayne. You're the ones who violated company policy. You're the ones who disrespected our relationship. I just turned the light on. I'm just a guy who sent a thank you card. What happens next is a direct consequence of your actions. You have to fix this, I begged him, dropping the anger because I could see it wasn't working. Call them back, tell them you misunderstood, tell them you're just an overeager boyfriend who got confused. But Craig just stood there with that same cold expression. No, he said. I won't be lying to a corporation's legal department for you. Then he went to the closet and pulled out my suitcase. My suitcase, like I was some kind of guest who'd overstayed her welcome. Since you're suspended, you'll have plenty of time to pack. I want you out tonight. The absolute nerve of this man. After 3 years together, after everything I'd put into this relationship, he was kicking me out over a simple misunderstanding? You can't do this, I told him. I have nowhere to go. You can stay with your work husband, he said with this nasty smile. Oh wait, he's probably busy explaining this to his actual wife right now. That's when I lost it completely. I called him every name I could think of. Selfish, controlling, pathetic. How dare he punish me for having a successful career, for having a boss who actually valued my contributions. This was pure jealousy, pure male ego. But he just stood there taking it, which made me even angrier. At least fight back, at least show some emotion. Instead, he grabbed his keys and said he was going out for an hour, and I better be gone when he got back. Like I was some kind of criminal. I had to call Blair, sobbing, begging her to let me crash at her place. She was shocked, couldn't believe Craig would do something so vindictive. He seemed so nice, she kept saying, which just proved how good men are at hiding their true nature. I packed as fast as I could, throwing clothes and makeup into bags, my hands shaking with rage and humiliation. 3 years of my life? And this is how it ended? Because I had a good relationship with my boss? Because someone finally appreciated my talents? 6 weeks at Blair's place was supposed to be temporary, just until I could get back on my feet. But the investigation dragged on. And then came the final verdict, terminated for violation of company policy. Wayne got demoted, stripped of his senior VP title, transferred to some dead-end department in risk and compliance. His wife filed for divorce. And me? I was blacklisted, basically. Word travels fast in our industry. Nobody wanted to hire someone who'd been fired for inappropriate workplace relationships. My savings ran out fast without a paycheck. Blair started making comments about rent, about how long I'd been there, about her own bills. The friendship that had seemed so solid started cracking under the pressure of me actually needing something from her. I can't keep covering your expenses, she finally said one morning over coffee. It's been almost 2 months, Kenzie. I have my own life to think about. 2 months. Had it really been that long? Time felt warped, like I was stuck in some nightmare version of my life. Then my dad called. Troy Vance, successful attorney, pillar of the community, absolutely furious that his daughter had embarrassed the family name. You've made a mess of everything, he said, and now you expect me to clean it up. He tried threatening Craig legally, sending some ridiculous cease and desist letter demanding $50,000 in damages. But apparently Craig had covered his bases perfectly. One innocent thank you card. Completely plausible deniability. Even my own father's law firm couldn't find an angle. The boy's got a good lawyer, my dad admitted grudgingly. Better than I expected from someone in his position. I had to move back home, back to my childhood bedroom with the faded wallpaper and participation trophies. Back to my mother's disappointed sighs and my father's lectures about responsibility. The only job I could get was answering phones at a small insurance office in town. The kind of place I used to look down on, with outdated computers and a break room that smelled like burnt coffee. My new boss was this woman in her 50s who wore the same 3 blazers on rotation and thought updating the filing system was revolutionary. "You'll need to start at the bottom," she explained on my first day. "Work your way back up, prove you can be trusted." Trusted. Like I was some kind of criminal. Meanwhile, I heard through mutual friends that Craig was doing great. New girlfriend, some landscape architect, who apparently thinks work husband is the stupidest concept she's ever heard. They looked happy in the photos Blair accidentally showed me before quickly putting her phone away. The thing that really got me was how effortless they looked together. Like they just fit. Craig was smiling in ways I hadn't seen in months, maybe years. When had he stopped smiling at me like that? And Wayne? Last I heard, he was living in a studio apartment, paying alimony, working in that compliance department. His career was over, just like mine. Sometimes I wonder if I should feel guilty about that, about how our professional relationship led to his whole life falling apart. But then I remember. We didn't do anything wrong. We were just 2 professionals who understood each other, who had a connection. If Craig hadn't been so insecure, so threatened by my success, none of this would have happened. He's the one who chose to destroy everything rather than just step up his game. He could have been more attentive, more appreciative, more like Wayne. Instead, he decided to play games, to manipulate the situation until everyone lost. Fine, yeah, maybe I got too close to Wayne. Maybe I should have been more careful about boundaries. But Craig pushed me to it with his constant neglect, his inability to see what was right in front of him. A woman needs to feel valued, appreciated. When she's not getting that at home, she's going to find it somewhere else. So no, I don't feel guilty. I feel angry. Angry that small-minded people can't handle seeing a woman thrive, can't handle seeing her form meaningful professional relationships. Craig got what he wanted. He got rid of me, got rid of the competition. But he also lost the best thing that ever happened to him. And someday, when his new relationship falls apart because he's still the same calculating person he always was, he'll realize what he threw away. I just hope I'm successful enough by then to not care.